Bang.
So my thought was to stay in the background there. As I said, my thing was to just support Farley. But then Mr. Duke approached me and he asked me, to think about it. And this time, I went home. I went to Daddy. Because Daddy is my rock.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that
Amen.
any decision that I had to make, if I didn't have him on board, and if he wasn't part of that decision, then that is failure from the get-go. So that if he had said to me that he didn't think that I was ready and this was the time, I would have taken his advice. That is how much I value my father's input. So I went home. And I told my father and we had a discussion. And in everything that has happened to me, it has only been God. And my father always says that everything that happens to him is because God allows him to be in places that he's supposed to be at the time that he's there. So that everything kind of lined up perfectly in God's timing. God's timing is perfect timing. So that this time when the conversation, because the conversation with God took place over several days, but I remember the last day of the conversation. That was a Saturday. And this was after the discussion with my father, discussion with Mr. Duke, and talking to Farley and all the different people and all of these things. And that day, though the last 42 hours before the decision was especially trying for me, because when God is asking for my attention, he puts me through some stresses. Right? So I was emotionally and mentally put through the ringer. I was literally crying for 2 days and I didn't know why. My spirit was just cleansing. And Saturday morning, I will never forget that. Saturday, the 24th of November, I think. I was crying that entire morning. And I sat on my bed and I looked up. And the last thing I said, God, whatever is your will, please, I am ready. I am here. I am ready. And I went to sleep at 11:50 in the morning. When I woke up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I got a call from Mr. Duke. And he said to me, I want you to come screen to be my candidate. I looked up at the ceiling and I said, God, this is what you really put me through for this? All right. I am. And that was it.
Wow.
The rest is history.
The rest is history. So you know that you are coming up against
the incumbent,
the current West representative, and the party is a formidable party because of how they choose to run their election. I was a member until I was a PNM until 3.5 to 4 years ago.
Okay.
When I didn't see what I was expecting and looking for, and what was told to me, why I continue to vote. I've never voted for any other party in my life. And
you're coming home to vote this time, or?
Well, no answers here on the phone, no commitment.
Oh,
I have to be neutral. I want to talk to everybody. So I can't be out there saying anything about any one party.
Right.
I am looking for people politics. I'm not looking for party politics. Because the beauty with party politics, when a party win an election, they just say about their party people. And party people doesn't constitute and make up
the people.
The
majority of the people,
You understand me? And what is your assessment of the... I will talk again about policies and politics, but we want to get some more questions in because we are about to go to answer the questions of the people. I don't know how many questions they have there because you are a very powerful representation and production line, running straight out from the bedroom into the sea.
Right.
You getting ready to do big things. You're not
To
ready
rumble.
to.
Yes.
You ain't ready to start out in the Tobago House of Assembly. You're getting ready to go in the big house. So, what is your
big leagues?
What is your assessment of the political accomplishments, right, and representation by the current member of Parliament for Tobago West? Are you going to grade her? What she did?
No, you know why I'm not going to grade her? I'm going to be very fair to her in the sense that when we were at the Youth Council, she was the president, I was the education and research officer. So I knew her before she entered active politics. And I knew that she had a passion for young people. She had a heart for young people. That's how she started into politics and entering that thing. The thing about it is that the problem is not necessarily the people who get involved. The problem is the vehicle. That party swallows up its best and brightest, and they kind of have to toe the line. So what has happened perennially is that persons who represent Tobago of that party, Tobago's voice is lost because the party agenda takes over. So in the beginning, she may have started with all the great intentions to do a lot. And because of the situation that she found herself in, she couldn't do much. And she just had to conform. There's something called collective cabinet responsibility that she had to conform to. So that, not knowing her personally, because she may have a personal view about some of the things that she had to do as a minister, I can say that as for the party, because I blame the party, I will not blame her really. I blame the party for not having Tobago's best interests at heart and forcing the representatives to toe a party line without properly representing the interests of those who voted for them and who didn't vote for them and who they represent. Because the reality is that Tobago's agenda, it was sold to us. The election 2005, they went on platforms and said Tobago autonomy would be on the agenda. We will fix this. We will do this. We will.
I was there. I was right there. I was right there.
They sold us that. And then now it is 2020. In the last few weeks of the life of this government, and that bill hasn't even gone to Parliament. And we have our Prime Minister making excuses for not doing the thing that he said he was supposed to do. So I cannot blame the young lady. She could have done more. Maybe she tried to advocate behind the scenes. Maybe she tried to fight for us behind the scenes, but in front of the camera, she had to close ranks. I know that in politics, half of what you see is just an illusion and most of what you hear is not the truth. And I'm not walking into this situation naive. But the thing that I know that I'm going to do is that when the 2 Tobago seats go down there and it's blackout 2020, that we are representing the voice of Tobago. Tobago's business has to be handled. Tobago, we need to bring home this autonomy because 2 things are missing. The last 2 important things that are missing, which is the ability for the Tobago House of Assembly to make laws and the ability of the Tobago House of Assembly to have executive power outside of cabinet oversight. Currently, everything we do has to be subject to cabinet approval. The cabinet is 39 people. Well, the parliament representation in Trinidad is 39 seats. We have 2. So it's not a PNM versus UNC versus PDP versus PEP versus whoever else fight. It's a Tobago versus Trinidad fight. It's a 39 versus 2 fight. And when you have the 2 voices in Tobago belonging to a Tobago-based, Tobago directed, Tobago operated party. When we go down to the parliament, we are not representing PDP. We are representing Tobago. We are bringing home autonomy for Tobago. That is our intention. So that when Tobagonians vote for a party representative, the party agenda is what comes first. And if the party agenda is not Tobago business, then Tobago Crapo smoke we pipe, as the old people does say. And it's about time that Crapo stop smoking we pipe in Tobago. It's about time that we settle this thing once and for all. Because back in 1961, when we took our constitution, our constitution to England for them to give us our independence, That parliament didn't change anything. They didn't send it to a joint select committee to decide what to give and what to take out and what to keep and what to change. They gave us exactly what we asked for. Trinidad is not our colonial masters. We don't have to ask Trinidad for permission to be first world. What they have to give us is what we have asked for. And the process has been done. They had all the consultations throughout Tobago, the length and breadth. Everybody had the opportunity to contribute. So that bill that was sent to Parliament by right should have been passed already. And it is an indictment on the ruling party that they have left Tobago's business for another election cycle to flounder, to just fall by the wayside. Imagine that they rushed a marijuana bill to Parliament, literally overnight. But the business of Tobago people 44 years down the road still can't fix. And somehow they are coming back with the same rhetoric to get us to vote for them again, to promise us what again? It's about time we start to pick sense from nonsense. So that for me, with her, sadly, she got caught up in a situation that was way above her. And obviously, as I said, she could have done more at the level of her constituency, at the level of representing the people in the communities, because there were several issues that her voice was needed and it wasn't there. There are several pockets of people who are very disappointed and disgruntled with her group of persons right now in terms of the airport situation, who are looking to her for representation, and they're very disappointed with the fact that she has not come up to scratch. So I'm saying this simply, that the thing that I am going to do, because I have every intention of representing every voice that needs to be represented in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago, we need to get this right. 2020 is the year for Tobago to rise. 2020 is the year for us to reset. It's the time for the revolution. It's time for us to flip the switch. It's time for Tobago to choose Tobago. It's time for us to put our business first. The 39 down the road fixing their business. COVID has exposed so many realities for Tobago. The fact of the matter is that Tobago West as a constituency has been devastated as a result of COVID, right? We have a number of persons who lost their jobs because the majority of the tourism-related industries are in Tobago West. Some of those businesses will never reopen, right? And Tobago, we couldn't take care of our own. We had to wait for our minister in Trinidad to send money to Tobago for us to even begin to start to pay out some grants. Why should Tobagonians be going cap in hand and begging for assistance? We should be at the point here where we should have been able to step in immediately and take care of our people. If we were collecting the data all these years, if we were doing the things that we needed to do, if we were providing support for businesses during this time, Tobago should have been able to take care of or to look forward to. If something like this happens again, what happens? One of the things that is near and dear to my heart is advocating for income protections for low and middle income persons, so that the majority of the persons working in the tourism industry are those who make minimum wage or a little bit more than that, right? At the end of the day, these were people, they may have been living paycheck to paycheck, but they were living, they were taking care of their families. Yes. Persons were reduced to beggars. That is an indictment on our administration. How you can tell a big man that he cannot collect any income, he's waiting on a grant, he signed up all the forms and he can't get it. It's still processing. That he can't go to the grocery and buy groceries to feed his family, and all you can hand him is a hamper and tell him God is love. We have to do better than that. Proper governance dictates that we protect our people, because the reality is that we live in a world where disasters happen, whether it be natural disasters or otherwise man-made disasters, things happen. So that we need to know that if it is that we can put mechanisms in place to protect the most vulnerable persons in society, that if anything like COVID happens again, God forbid a natural disaster happens, that people can at least still collect their income, that their incomes are protected through a period of time that allows them to transition, whether it be to go back into the workplace where they were before or to find new jobs, whatever it is, but it should give them the opportunity to be able to transition comfortably. People should be able to be man and woman in their own house. I have an issue with hamper distribution. You know why? Not that I don't need that people need to eat, but why in 2020 should we be giving out hampers? Tobago people should be so empowered that when disasters happen, I look at Canada, I look at the Canadian response and even the US response to a lesser extent. That money was going directly to people's accounts to be able to go and buy food and to be able to go and pay bills and to be able to go and pay their rent. We need to be able to empower people. To me, that speaks about respect, that I have respect for you enough, that I know that you're going to use this money to take care of your family. When I bring a hamper for you, it's me telling you that I think you deserve rice, oil, and eggs, when in truth and in fact, you might even eat half of those things because of dietary.
You might even be eating eggs.
Exactly. You might need half of those things because of dietary restrictions. But the thing is, we need to understand that as a Tobago society, we deserve more. We deserve more. And our leaders, we have to hold them to account. Too much money has passed through Tobago that when our rainy day comes, we don't have anything to give our people. Where is our emergency fund? Where is our disaster management response in a real way? Why are we waiting on God to tell us what to do and how to do it? Tobago, it's time we have to be man and woman in our own house.
Hey.
You know? It's time for us to be man and woman in our own house. And I always keep telling people when I'm walking about and that kind of thing, because I really don't publicize when I go out, because to me all of that is just part of PR. Yes,
propaganda,
it might be necessary.
propaganda.
But I prefer the one-on-one interaction. You know, if you agree with what I'm saying, then, because I will never ask anybody for a vote. So I don't want nobody to vote. I want your support. Because if I ask you for a vote, it's a one-off thing. You could vote for me and then I don't see you next 5 years. And it means that I'm not beholden to you. But when I ask for your support, I'm asking you for relationships with Tobago people, because we need to do the work. It's not just a politician. I could advocate until I turn blue in the face, because when I go down there and I cost them for 10% of the budget, and I get it because I plan to get it, right? And $5 billion comes to the THA, then I expect that the persons who are in charge of the Tobago House of Assembly will deliver. They will deliver to the people. And the people are not just waiting for delivery. They want to be a part of the process.
Support.
And they don't want morning work. They don't want a handout. They don't want a hamper. They want sustainable jobs. They want to be able to get qualified in the things that they want to do. They want to be able to live their dreams and their passion. And they want to do it all on this little island. We don't need permission to be first world. So that we have to talk progress. We have to believe in progress. We have to believe that we deserve better. And Tobago can be first world on its own. Tobago can lead the way. Tobago can be the example that this nation needs. As I said, we have 3 things working for us. We have the right population size. We have the natural and abundance of natural and other resources at our disposal. And we are in almost the most perfect location in the world.
Wow.
And there's so much we can do that we've not been doing. It's time for us to get up and do. And the idea of walking into a brand new Tobago where technology is driven by data, is driven by people, is driven by systems that work, that is an exciting Tobago to live in. If we could accomplish even half of that in 5 years, I can have a very short career, because it means that I can make way for another young person. I can hand over the baton and they could continue the fight. And I could raise my children and live good and, you know, travel some more, and maybe I might get a husband, I don't know.
Who knows?
Who knows? You know? But I think because young people, they want more for themselves. They want more, and we've been doing them a disservice by trying to put them in a box.
Amen.
They have grown up in a time when they are watching young people becoming millionaires on YouTube, opening presents. You know, YouTube followers are getting monetized and whatnot, and they get paid to do that. So when they see people becoming millionaires just by simply sitting down in front of a camera and producing a product, how could I sell a morning work to you? How could I sell a minimum wage job to you? I can't sell these things. So what we have to do is create an environment, and this is what excites me so much, the idea of decentralizing control into the communities. I want to be able to walk into Blackrock, and Blackrock has perfectly paved roads, perfectly well-kept facilities, that we have doctors in the community, we have vets in the communities. we have sustainable economic activity taking place in the community. So if Black Rock produces the best pepper sauce in the island, we must have fields of peppers being harvested in Black Rock, being processed in Black Rock, being bottled and labeled in Black Rock. And the only thing the THA do is exporting. That's the only thing we do. We're picking up the boxes and sending them where they have to go, whether it be to Trinidad, whether it be up the islands, whether it be to the diaspora in the United
States. Amazon, FedEx, UPS.
That is the purpose of governance. Government is supposed to just be a facilitating machine. We are not supposed to have our hand in everything, and it's because of the corruption. You know, it's because we have our little 1% clique in Tobago who has access to the majority of our money and resources, and the bulk of us have to suffer to keep them happy. But the time for that is over. All that we can live good right here. I want to be able to walk into Buku. Buku is the perfect tourist town, the perfect, that waterfront, that whole entire structure of real estate. We don't know the gold that we are sitting on. Tobago is literally an island full of gold and diamonds and jewels and beauty in the Caribbean Sea. And we live here and we don't appreciate it. We have to start to appreciate where we're at. We have to appreciate ourselves as people. You deserve more. That is my message to Tobagonians, that you deserve more. And you deserve a government that gives you more. When they come and try to bribe you with a hamper and a bottle of Johnny Walker, tell them you want a piece of land and a house instead. Because you need to leave something for your generation. Tell them you want startup capital to invest in a business, right? Tell them you want to travel and get qualified and come back and contribute. Tell them your vote is not cheap. They shouldn't come to you with any less than that, because if they're empowering you, they are empowering the island. And giving you a hamper and a bottle of alcohol is not empowering.
Can't do any empowering.
Nothing for your family. It leaves nothing for your generation. And Tobagonians, you don't just deserve more. There is more to be had. Don't let anybody fool you. There's more than enough for all of us to live good. It's more than enough to go around. And I'm saying that we don't need a government in Trinidad to tell us that we could have world-class healthcare, that we could have world-class education facilities, that we could have world-class sporting facilities, that we could have our sportsmen and sportswomen train right here and become Olympians and bring back Olympic gold and Commonwealth gold and all the other gold to get and all the other medals to get, that we can have all of that right here, that we can have our doctors, lawyers, nurses, everybody trained right here, that if a young person wants to get involved in animation, that they can study right here, that if somebody wants to become an actor, they can come from right here and they can make their mark internationally, and that we can all do it right in the capital of paradise, which is Tobago. Yeah.
Well. You have done yourself justice. Your campaigning technique, I didn't even know your voice was so powerful. I thought it was just this little thing before.
They call me the lioness, right? That is my nickname.
Oh, they call it. Oh, I didn't know that. Wow. That's awesome.
The speech when I was launched. And my launch was, I don't write my speeches. So if you look back on any time that I've spoken politically, I don't ever write my speeches. Everything comes from inside me. I always pray before I touch a mic.
That's the kind of life I keep, but I want to just show you that we ain't going quarter way on your questions yet.
Oh my goodness.
And no, be honest, but then we have more questions for you, but
well, I think we have to have a part 2 just for the questions.
Well, it's just that everybody have to have a part 2. I don't know. This want to turn into a PTP platform. Nobody ain't paying me, you know. I just doing this because of innovation and to bring young politicians out, whether you're from
that platform,
whether you're a PNM or whether you're a UNC or whatever. But we have a lot of questions for you, but let us see if we could tackle some of the questions there from the audience.
Yeah. Right.
There's a question here for you. What is your assessment of the skyrocketing cost of living for Tobago? Well, you answering your question and them so broadly that you're bringing You're bringing in
Well, all
answers.
the because everything is interrelated. The thing about it is that Tobago in general, when you compare the cost that is incurred in living in Tobago versus living in Trinidad and Tobago, we know that it costs more money to live and work and thrive and operate in Tobago. So for me, when we have a conversation about minimum wage, national minimum wage is $17.50. Minimum wage cannot be $17.50 in Tobago. The cost of living is higher in Tobago. So that it means that we have to recognize that because we are at a slight disadvantage, the people who live in Tobago, that is, in terms of our access to goods and services and the cost of these goods and services, either one of two things has to happen. One, we have to open up access to the island in such a way that it brings down the cost of living and it brings down the cost of goods and services, or we need to pay our people more, right? So that there's several things, we need to have several conversations, because if we're talking about opening up access, we're talking about bringing up our port to international standard. Our port needs to be operated at a level where we can have inter-regional trade, where we can have international trade. When you're talking about opening up the island, you're talking about giving us access to the things that now are so expensive. You're talking about delving into agriculture, because food security is a huge issue.
Yes.
Why should we be bringing potato and plantain and cucumber and things from markets in Trinidad, or Carica markets, bananas and these things coming from Carica markets of the islands? We should be able to grow our own food. So the idea is that the cost of living is a broad conversation that needs to be had in terms of overall development for the island and overall development in all the sectors. We're talking about agriculture, we're talking about education, we're talking about healthcare, we're talking about all of these things. So if it is we were to bring up our capacity in all of these levels, then obviously we would see a consequent decrease in the cost of living, because, for example, in terms of education, tertiary level education really doesn't exist on the island. So it means that anybody who has to live and work in Tobago now has to spend additional funds to go and study in Trinidad. They might be doing it part-time, so they have to take the boat, they have to take the plane, they have to find accommodation, and on top of that, they have to pay tuition, right? So they are spending more money to get access to the same opportunities that somebody who lives in Trinidad has access to for far less money, because they're already spending less to live in Trinidad, and because the opportunity is there, they spend far less money. All they have to do is just worry about transportation costs and tuition and books. Somebody coming from Tobago has so many other additional costs to factor in, and when you look at the fact that the salaries are on the same level, it means that the average Tobagonian doesn't even have any disposable income, because after you pay bills and after you deal with your education-related expenses, what kind of money you could save? You understand what I'm saying? And a lot of these young people already have families, or they are taking care of their families. So that when we look at that cost of living, that is just one very small aspect of a broader conversation about the lack of development on the island. And the lack of development in terms of infrastructure, lack of development in terms of our industries and creating sustainable industries, and the lack of development in terms of our human resource, capital, and potential. So that if we were to do the thing right, if we were to have those planning taking place, those strategic plans being made, and the kind of money, because Tobago has been shortchanged. Tobago's allocation, Mr. Charles fought for us to get between 4% and 6%, 6.5% of the national budget. We have never gotten anything more than 4.5%. And that was back in 2001. Now it's 2020. The cost of living has increased exponentially since then. So should Tobago still be getting that 4% now?
No,
Anybody can live on
I want to ask you something. How your party representatives have so much information and so much things to teach?
Because we live and breathe the struggle. It's part of us. I'm not reading from a book here. I'm not looking at something on the screen being prompted. All of these things are in my head and in my heart and in my soul. So that when I go out there,
but there's a question on the screen here for you right now. Answer that.
How can we address the exorbitant cost of new starter homes in Tobago West? We have a situation with real estate in Tobago. The price of real estate in Tobago is through the roof. And the reality is that the last information I got is that 85% of the lands that is available for development at Tobago are vested in the Tobago House of Assembly. For the last 20 years, they have not done any serious development when it comes to housing on the island. So one of the plans of the PDP, once we're given the mandate to govern at the level of both representing in Parliament and at the level of the THA, is to make these lands available for persons to be able to purchase at a low cost to be able to build their homes. That is a housing policy that we are going to push young persons who qualified, persons with low and middle incomes. You see, having a home, you see, having something that belongs to you, turning a key and knowing that that is your address, that bill is in your name, that you can go to the bank and say, I live here, this is my light bill, this is my water rate. This is what development and governance looks like. So that when we start to free up these estates, because all of it has to be done in a proper fashion, because you don't just want to raise lands to put up houses. We have to examine what the current housing stock looks like. We have to look at mixed communities, so that, for example, not everybody would be able to get the big house with the spread and the backyard. You understand what I'm saying? Because we want to be able to give most persons the opportunity to own their slice of paradise or their piece of paradise. So we have to look at what kinds of housing units or housing stock we can be able to create mixed communities.
And we have to check. We have to check our soil to see the pH balance and to see where we still can do agriculture. You're not going to cut down living. You're not going to cut down living cocoa.
There must be a balance. There must be a balance between development and ensuring that the environment can still thrive, that the environment is taken care of, that we do the thing properly. So that in terms of housing, the PDP policy philosophy is to make these lands available, whichever lands that are earmarked for housing.
Yes,
those lands will be made available as soon as can be practically possible for persons to be able to purchase, and let us start to stimulate the economy. Because this idea of contractors building homes in Tobago, we don't know about that. We know about the Lenan concept. You hire a mason, you hire a carpenter, you hire a plumber or whatever, because you're creating employment for people in the communities. You're creating employment for persons who have small contracting firms and whatever. These ideas of persons coming to build houses. And not only that, they are building these houses at 2 and 3 times the cost it takes to build these houses in Trinidad. And that is not something that has ever been addressed. Because that is something that comes back to the idea of the cost of living being higher in Tobago. When you have materials being purchased at X price in Trinidad, and when it gets to Tobago, the price jumps by 3 times.
Double and triple.
Yeah, double and triple. Then obviously the same house that you build in Trinidad for $250,000 will cost you $750,000 in Tobago. And who can afford that? Average man cannot afford that. So that, as I said, several things have to happen. We have to open the Tobago. We have to open Tobago for trade in terms of goods and services. That will immediately start to bring down the cost of goods and services on the island. We have to address the disparity in terms of that cost of living with employment and all of these things. We have to look at, because I believe in the idea of a living wage. Minimum wage doesn't do anything for you, because if you're basically telling me at $17.50 an hour, which is about the price of a loaf of gourmet bread, you have to work for an hour to buy a loaf of bread. That ain't making sense.
No.
You get what I'm saying? So that we need to understand in Tobago, and again, this comes back to Tobago people demanding and believing that they deserve better. Tobagonians need to have a living wage. And the living wage has to be determined by what is the average cost for somebody to live comfortably in Tobago, and that is our starting point.
Wow.
And then you add other things to that, who is qualified, who has experience, whatever. So you'll have a scale. But at the lowest end of the scale should be a wage that people can comfortably live on. This idea, 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off, and you're collecting $800 a fortnight, and saying, who can live on $800 a fortnight?
No way.
Who can live on $1,200 a fortnight? That is not even rent. And if you have children, when you go in the grocery, the price of basic food items have increased so much that the average family is spending anywhere between $600 and $1,000 in the grocery, and that is not even one trip for the month. Because I could remember growing up when my parents went to the groceries one time for the month, they bought everything and it lasted until the end of the month. Now you find yourself making 2 and 3 trips to the grocery during any given course of a month. How are people living on that? How are people living on the salaries that they are making?
Lifestyle. This is what my show is all about, lifestyle. We have to get that. We have to get that done better.
Listen to me.
We have another question here for you.
What are your thoughts on the current chronic water shortage in Tobago? In this situation in Tobago, can it be solved? Yes, it can be solved. But we have to empower Tobago to be able to solve that problem. Remember, WASA is a national entity, right? But in terms of Tobago, what we have to look at is what is Tobago's water development plan? What is our plan? What is our urban development plan? If it is we are doing our assessments and we realize that we have 1,000 people living in this community, but we don't have water to supply these 1,000 people, then we have to be careful about who we allow to come into that community to add to a situation that already exists. So in terms of determining if new businesses could open in that community, and what kinds of businesses. I mean, I'm pulling the sandals industry into this. We have a chronic water shortage in the area of Tobago West, Crown Point, but we were willing to put a 1,000-room hotel in that situation without addressing who live in here first and struggling for water. These are where the money, this is because the government was willing to put up all of this money to build the sandals. Where is this same thrust? Where is this same representation being made to be able to have the persons who already live in Tobago being brought up to a particular standard of living? We can't solve the water problem, right? We can't solve the water problem through several
We can or can't?
We can solve the problem, yes. Right? Because the thing about it is that WASA has a situation with leaks. So WASA has to treat with their leaking main situation. The mains have to be changed. Some of them are old. They need to be. And the thing is that Tobago has to be looked at separate and apart from Trinidad. Our program for infrastructure works should be Tobago focused and Tobago based. People in WASA shouldn't be answering to somebody in Trinidad. If it is that we have leaks to be changed in Tobago, somebody in Tobago who lives and works in Tobago should be able to make a decision. Look, we have $100 million allocated to change mains in Tobago. We're going on a massive main changing exercise that's going to last 2 years. By the time we're finished, all the mains should be up to current day standards. Right?
What about our dams? I understand St. George.
The desilting of all the dams, the digging of new wells and the bringing of wells that are currently already dug but are just capped. We have to bring those wells into part of the operations because there are wells that are already dug that right now have not been operationalized. We need to bring all of these things on stream because it's a combination of both whatever we have in terms of these dams as well as our underwater well capacity and as well as harnessing rainwater and other
sulturating.
So that for a small island with 60,000 people, we really shouldn't be having issues for water, even if it requires us to construct a small desalination facility to be able to pull salt water and go through that process where we can make it potable water. Why can't we look at that? You understand what I'm saying? I mean, there are things that can be done. The technology exists. The people who are qualified to do the jobs, they exist. They are here. Let us get the job done. Let us do the feasibility studies. Let us do the cost-benefit analysis. But we just need the will. We need the people in leadership who want to solve the problem. We all know what the problem is. The question is are we ready to put the people in power who want to solve the problem for you?
Amen.
Yeah?
Another question here for you. What are your thoughts on the current plan as has been shared with the public for the expansion of the Tobago-only airport? Give us a quick answer.
Immediately, I was quite uneasy with the process. And when I got to finding out more about the process from the people who are actually intimately involved and who would be affected, I was angry and disappointed for several reasons. Having traveled throughout the Caribbean, I know that airport size does not determine arrivals.
Hey, hallelujah.
St. Lucia Airport is like literally 2 and 3 rooms in a box, but they welcome 1 million visitors in any given year. right? So that airport size does not determine how many people come to your destination. And we could have a whole conversation about tourism, but that's for another time. The thing about it is that
you're coming back?
For my Tobago people, right? I have to come back, it seems. Let me tell you something that I learned from my father very early on. We have a connection with our land. You see, when Tobago people settle in an area,
they don't want to
move. Put down roots, and they have their family there, and they build their community and that kind of thing.
And they bury the navel strings.
Literally bury the navel string there. Barring some natural disaster, you can't really move somebody from a piece of land that they work to buy, they toil, they build their house, whatnot. The process by which or the great grandparents leave for them, because there's always history. Our culture is full of, we have historical significance to everything, and we have this connection to our land. And when you're talking about making way for development, people don't have a problem with development, but we have an issue with the process. They didn't communicate with people properly. You just can't expect to throw money at people and expect that they will just pick up and leave. Money is not the issue. Yes, they want adequate compensation for their lands. That has to be addressed. That is one issue. But at the same time, you have to communicate with them in a way that makes them feel like if you are listening to their concerns, that you respect their views, that you respect that they have history, that you respect that because they did their assessments, they did environmental assessments, they did their financial cost benefit, but nobody talked about the psychological impact of having to move from your ancestral home. What's that psychological impact? And you can't expect that you could tell people we need you out in 3 months. You can't tell somebody that because psychologically they can't prepare themselves to go off into the unknown. You might tell them, yeah, we're going to put you in Cove, or we're going to put you in Sherburne, or we're going to put you in Lekito, or but then people have to mentally, emotionally, spiritually prepare themselves to go in a place where they're a stranger.
That's
to go
right.
in a place where they set down new roots. And you have to give them time to be able to do that. Right? So this idea of a government being a bully, being belligerent, that could never fly, because that flies in the face of accountability, that flies in the face of transparency, that flies in the face of simple communication. You just come to me from a vote and you just reach up back in some weird places in somebody's yard all hours of the night begging for a vote. But when it comes to me and what affects me, you can't sit with me around a table and treat me like a human being with respect.
Hallelujah.
That is disrespectful. That is disrespectful. And in addition to that, what makes it even worse, and this is just from my layman understanding, you want to get all these lands, but up to now, nobody knows how this new airport is going to look. Is this going to be a green airport? Is it going to be built to certain standards? How big, how wide, how tall? What are the services that are going to be offered? Is it that you're going to put a hotel next to the airport? What will be the purpose of a hotel? What is the size of the runway? What kind of, are you going to have capacity for large planes to stay overnight? What is this new airport going to look like? You have not sold to us what we're going to get, but yet you want us to buy cotton bag and for us to apparently be okay with that. I don't know anybody who go in and buy a car or buy a house and will go and buy these things without seeing the thing, without test driving it, without having an idea of how it would look, how it would feel, how it would sound, the colors, the feel, the fabric, the whatever. So it's the same way when you talk about, because an airport is a huge piece of infrastructure.
Yes.
So that the consultations that need to take place have to take place, and it has to take place in an atmosphere of good faith and understanding and respect and goodwill. And that is what has been lacking from day one. And it's not too late, It's not too late to mend the relationship, but it has to be done sooner rather than later. Because as I said, those people, they are not against development. There is this narrative that the other side is trying to push, that the opposition doesn't want a new airport and all these things. We want a new airport, yes, but COVID just happened. We just came through a global pandemic and we're still in the middle of it. We have people on this Tobago here who have been evicted from their homes. They have not received social grants. They are literally hanging by a thread. But you're trying to push a $1.2 billion project? You really think that is priority right now, especially since our borders are closed? And we will have to take some time to recover in terms of the worldwide tourism trust. The world will take some time to recover and get used to whatever the new normal looks like. And that new normal may mean that our tourism product never goes back to the way it was before.
And look at our healthcare system. Our healthcare system for a new. Are we ready for a new airport?
areas of priority that should be placed, emphasis should be placed on bringing these areas up to scratch before we even have a conversation. What is the rush to build this airport? There is nothing critical happening in the atmosphere. So it also lends itself for people to start to ask questions about why is it they want to force this airport on us at this time? And people start to think about different theories as to why that might be. But the reality is that you have to have consultation, you have to have an atmosphere of respect first. You have to respect people for where they have built themselves, because Tobagonians are a proud race of people. We will take every little pay we get, we put on some bricks. I can remember meeting Mr. Moses when I was in Lambo a couple of weeks back, and we sat down talking, and he told me when he built his property on the highway that he dug the foundation by the light of a bamboo bully face. See this bully face symbol here? This bully face symbol here, it has so much significance for Tobagonians, because my father could tell me the same thing, that he dug the foundation for our house. Sometimes late in the evening, he dig in by the light of a bamboo belief. And the thing is that when you do that, when you build your house, when you put your blood, sweat, and tears into something, as I said, barring a natural disaster that forces you to have to move from that place, we have to take into account the psychological fallouts of forcing people to move. Again, they are not against development, but let us measure twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times before we cut, so that when we cut once, we cut correct.
Amen.
Yeah?
Amen. I like deep or shallow. You cut once.
Yeah.
Cut once and then you look for healing. So we have this, if elected into parliament.
Yes.
What can the people of Tobago West expect from your first year in office?
I have several things. 2 most important things. The first order of any government after an election, especially one that comes at this time, which is close to the end of the financial year, is that we're going to read a budget. So that the idea is that Tobago needs some more money for our development. Right now, we are, based on the last negotiation, we are locked into that 4% to 6.5%. I want to go for 10. You say ask for more than you want, and if you get a little less than that, you still get more than you would hope for. But the idea is that Tobago needs a lot more money for the kind of investments and development that we need to make going forward. Tobago has to come up to speed. We have to do a lot of work to bring us up to that side by side with Trinidad in terms of our development. So that requires more financial resources. That is one. The second thing is immediately bringing that Tobago autonomy issue to rest. We have to bring that home. We have to bring that home for Tobago in 2020. It has been 40, how much years? Since 1976. That is how much years? 24 and 20, that is 44 years. 44 years since Robinson and Murray, as 2 Tobago representatives, 2 independent Tobago representatives, not on the government side, not on the opposition side, standing up and moving a motion in Parliament to have that first bill passed for Tobago autonomy. It is time that we finish this race. It is time, this is the final leg. We have to bring this home for Tobago. We have to put this autonomy issue to rest, so that when we get our consequent powers, when we get our requisite authorities, we can now get down to the business of delivering and serving the people of Tobago in the way that we should be as proper representatives, not politicians, as proper representatives of the people. So that first year in office is to get that financial support for the island and to get that autonomy bill. And my prayer and hope is that Tobago will also elect a PDP THA into office for us to get our plans and our mandate off the ground. Building our communities, building each person, village by village, child by child. I'm excited to go into my communities in Tobago West, Golden Lane, Lekito, Plymouth, Blackrock, Canaan, Scarborough, Lambo, Signal Hill, Patience Hill, you name it. I am excited to get the people on board with developing our communities. That is what excites me. That work excites me. So I want our village councils to graduate. I want community councils. I want to know that we are paving roads in our district and we have district superintendents who are in charge of road paving. I want to be able to see parks going up. I want to be able to see fields of produce. I want us to start to grow our own food in a big way. I want to see community markets in each
Any
community.
factory in Tobago?
Agro processing. I want us to bring Cove alive. We have so much technology at our disposal. We have so many we can get into small manufacturing, small processing. We have niche markets here. We have a young man, Mr. Edwards, who is manufacturing soap and soap products. We have our different, look, imagine my relatives when they come from the United States. When they want to go back home, they're filling up their suitcase with Benny Ball and red mango and all of these things. And I mean, we have markets for these things. Tobago fish fetches a higher price than fish caught in Trinidad waters. We charge a premium on sheep and goats coming from Tobago when they go down to Trinidad. Things coming, you see Brand Tobago fetches a premium in Trinidad. Our biggest market is Trinidad. And then up the islands and then the diaspora. We have so many markets, but we just have to get cracking. I can remember a friend of mine posted on Facebook a picture of a little package of 10 bay leaves in a plastic canister for something like 10 US on Amazon. And I have neighbor cutting down bay leaf tree and burning like if it's rubbish. We have money. We literally throwing away money here. You understand what I'm saying? I'm saying that there's so much we can do. All we need is to get 5 or 6 things that we can do right and do well, and the world becomes our oyster. And that's exciting.
Right. Yes, it's exciting you. And it is exciting me because then I've been hearing about a lot of these things all my life.
Yeah.
But right now, my dear Miss Burris, I am telling you that you have taken this life to places where we have been before but was never successful. Wow. So I hope that with you and the fire in your soul and the religiosity of your belief, we are going to get somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So Elmi Davis is saying good night, lock and listening.
Good night, Miss Davis.
So you say hello to Elmi?
Yes, good night, Miss Davis. Thank you for tuning in.
Nice. You go ahead, you could read to it. We need to become united again in Tobago.
Good night, Marika. She's one of our biggest supporters.
Oh, where she's from?
I think she actually lives in the UK.
Oh,
so,
nice,
yeah.
Marika.
But she's always been totally on board and one of our biggest supporters. So thank you for tuning in tonight, Marika.
Alan John he has become one of our favorites. He'll be on Sunday he'll be on Sunday again for the Father's Day special.
Good, yeah, nice.
So you read his questions that are for you.
She needs to start and hit the ground running. I've already hit the ground, Mr. John, and certainly I am running. And I want Tobago people to know that it's not me alone to run the race. We need to run this race together. Yeah, so that the victory is ours. It's not mine, it's not the party's, it is Tobago's victory. Amen. On election night, whenever, wherever, everything is Tobago's victory.
So this is my goddaughter here. Avanel Hazel is saying, we need fresh faces, fresh blood. Tobago is worth the change.
Yes, it is. Tobago is worth that change. Correct.
We have Brother Earl Henry. He's from Tobago. I think maybe Canaan or somewhere there. He said, during the question and answers, I would like to know what is her vision for Tobago West, specifically, and Tobago in general. I am particularly interested in education and development, job creation. What is her stance on the prospective airport project and her option and her opinion on the debunked Sandals project?
Ooh, that's a loaded question, Mr.
It's
Henry.
loaded, but you answer most of it already.
Oh,
yes,
but
so you will just have to culminate and answer for my friend.
Yes. So basically, the only thing that I didn't touch on really was education and development. Being a mother of a young man, and especially a young person who's growing up in this time, I recognize that our education system is not tailored to suit the current realities. And Tobago is in a position where we have responsibility for our education system, except that we have been waiting and taking the cue from what is happening in Port of Spain, what is happening in Trinidad, to determine what is best for our children. What I would like to see is the establishment of academies, where that from early o'clock we can start to stream our children in the areas that they want to go. So we need to have our sporting academies up. Tobago has perennially been at the top in terms of primary school sports, secondary school sports every single year. Tobago produces some of the best athletes nationally. What happens to these athletes when they finish high school? Most of them fall through the cracks. Very few of them get scholarships and leave the island and they go away to study. But a lot of them, their talent is just falls by the wayside. So that the idea, and a lot of that is because the focus is on sport, but a lot they fall out on the wayside with respect to the academics. We need to have these academies up and running. So these sports academies where they can hone their talent as well as be taught the academic side of it. These creative academies where those who have those talents, whether it be singing, dancing, playing an instrument, that they can hone those talents and become world-class musicians and still be able to satisfy that academic component. Our technical vocational academies. So for those who are inclined, whether it be in robotics or whether it be in app development, whether it be in progressive technologies, AI, artificial intelligence, that our children are taking the lead. I could remember when I was doing my master's, my daughter was about 2 years old at the time. No, she was 1 when I started. But she started from the time she could pick up my laptop. She learned how to use my laptop. She learned how to use my smartphone. And this is a 2-year-old child. So that these days, children are progressing at a far faster rate than we were when we were their age. They are being exposed to technology at far younger ages. So seeing that they are exposed and they are able to bring the best out, because my daughter is 9 and she makes videos. She has like a TikTok account, and these things I would never dream to do at her age. Our children have the potential. So because we see the potential, we need to harness it, and we need to create the systems that can harness that potential. COVID has turned the world upside down. To be quite honest with you, seeing my daughter operate in an online environment, she doesn't even want to go back to school, because in an online environment, she can learn at her own pace. So that even being in the classroom seemed to have been very restrictive for her. When she's now online, she can do her work. She can go and look at educational videos. She can look at documentaries, and that she could learn. She can set her own pace as a student. The thing is, we have to look at the opportunities in the chaos. We need to be able to tailor our education system to be dynamic. It is currently very static. It's very rigid. It's very inflexible. Our teachers are frustrated. They are still arguing for basic items. They're still having issues with blackboards and photocopying and stuff like that. But the thing is that young people have tablets and laptops. Why are we still buying textbooks and sending our children to school with these huge book bags when stuff could be done online? PDF, we can create databases. Parents could log in and look at test scores, things like that. We can use the technology that is available to us. So that I want to see education go the way of being very cutting edge, being very interactive, being very open, being very progressive. Because that's what we need. We need the ideas to come out. The teachers have the ideas, but they are locked into a system that doesn't allow them a lot of flexibility. I'm saying that we can rewrite the script in Tobago. And we need to write our own script. We need to take the lead. We need to, as I keep saying, we don't need permission to be first world. We just need to do. We don't even have to have the SCA exam. We have more high school places available on the island than we have students writing the exam. If that is the case, then we can set up our technical vocational high school. We can set up our creative arts high school. We can set up our sporting high school. We can have our traditional high schools for those who are not sure yet what they want to do. But we can do it in our space, and we have so much talent. Speyside is one of the schools that I admire. I love Speyside High. When I look at the art, Tom Lee Roberts is doing an excellent job up at Speyside High with respect to their art program. And when I see the kind of talent coming from their students in the realm of art, I say to myself, why are we not monetizing this? Why are we not harnessing this? And there's so many other young people who have this raw talent, but they're not able to go into the places that talent can be harnessed, can be honed, can be developed. Tobago, we can do this. We can do this. It just takes some. Yeah.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
The airport, there's priority. There's priority in other places right now. We can do the airport thing anytime it needs to be done. We just need to do it properly, and certain things has to happen. I spoke about that. With respect to Sandals, my issue with Sandals has always been we need to fix home first. The government was willing to sink something like between $3 and $7 billion in that investment. Why they can't sink that same $3 or $7 billion into development for the island? Let us fix home first. Let us fix our healthcare. Let us fix our education system. Let's fix our roads. Let us bring our people up to living wage working standards. Let's create sustainable industries and sustainable employment. When we fix home first, then we could invite others to come here. Yeah?
Yes. Well, I hope my friend Earl Henry get the answer that he's looking for. And Earl, if it's not enough, we will have. She's saying that we're gonna have part 2. So, Avaneliezu, she's saying having a child at a young age, I've always said is not the end of the world. It can be seen as the great motivation piece for better.
That is absolutely correct. My children are my constant source of strength. I think they don't even know how much I draw from them. Because at the times that I have felt like giving up and actually just packing up and leaving with them, they have been the ones to say, Mommy, you need to fight. You made us strong and you are strong. I never one day doubt how strong you are and we are here. So that I had some moments during this time that I really felt like giving up. I'm being very honest with you. I had some moments where I felt I questioned the decision that was made. You know, I'm not questioning God's purpose for my life, but just questioning if I'm ready, if I have what it takes, you know, if I have everything I need. And I always go back to the story of Moses in the Bible, you know, when Moses was at the burning bush and he asked God he said, God, I don't have the words, you know, what am I going to say? And it's like, God said, I'll give you the words. So I've had those burning bush moments. And my children, because I feel God speaks through them to me, they're like, Mommy, you made us strong. We are strong because you are strong. Oh, don't one day that you don't have what it takes because you made us so that you have it. We are here for you. If you need to sleep, go and sleep. We'll go wash up the wares or we'll cook for you. My children cook for me. So they would take care of me. My children actually take care of me, you know. And I look at them in wonderment because I say to myself, if I did nothing good in this life, nothing at all, I have been blessed with 2 good ones.
Amen.